Yeah, so I'm calling this today density versus lightness. And I'm thinking a lot about how we show up in the world, like, and we can tune into these qualities that can give us more power or slow us down or give us more lightness, more ease. I mean, they can be different times of the day, different meanings all the time. So try to not put any kind of judgment on any of the exploration. Just allow it to be very free and open. Um, and we're going to play with some different breath sounds. So I'm actually going to offer the breaths first, and then we'll go into the exploration, and then you can bring them in however it feels good to you. So the first breath sound is going to be kind of a mixture, and it's going to be on the lighter side. I was just listening to this Rob Burbea Dharma talk about the imaginal and about how culturally we are very geared into what we can measure and the medical model and sort of scientific reductionism. That's a big part of our culture. Like, it's not real unless we can count it and measure it and weigh it and see it. So it made me really think about, that's not my reality because I'm an artist and I'm a weirdo. So I'm often on the other side of that spectrum in the imaginal. So I wanted to bring this in our sensation of self, with this idea of the density of ourself, like the earthiness, our bones, and then the lightness. And it was interesting because I was actually looking up what's the opposite of density. And there's a few different things that it says. One, lightness, one, like small, minimal. But it's also like the old word for the opposite was rare. And I don't quite know the context of that, so I'm not going to go into that. But for me, like, in our bodies, our bones are the densest part. They're the most earthy. And then maybe the lightest part could be our lungs, right? The breath and the air in our body. So we're kind of going to work back and forth between those two concepts. Like, um, it doesn't have to be bones, but earthiness and airiness, or density and spaciousness. So for me, the idea of density tends to have a coming into, like, I think of like a very heavy, like lead or something like that, as opposed to something more light and spacious. So these are the breaths we're going to do. I'm going to come in close for the first one. And this is the lightness breath. And it may not be lightness for you. So it may be something totally different. That's fine. Let you have whatever experience you're having. So the first one is kind of a mixture of theta with a sh and a ha. And you can play with it going back and forth. So theta would be the soft hiss behind tongue behind your teeth. So we'll mix like sh, s, sh, s. Any version. You could just stay in the or in the sh, but thinking of like spacious lightness with that. Or maybe it isn't even spacious and light for you. So if it's something else, that's fine. To me, I feel like it's a good exploration of spaciousness and lightness. So let's just play with that for a couple of minutes, a couple of breaths. If you need to take resting breaths anytime you need them. This is just an invitation to come into the somatic inquiry. There are no actual answers. We're just diving into the waters and seeing what's the temperature like, what does it feel like in here, what's going on right now. Breath is resting breath whenever you need it, just normal breathing. I'm going to turn off my heater and play with that breath sound. If any micro movement comes up, if your body wants to move, please invite that in. We're not trying to shut anything down. And your eyes can be open or closed. You can be laying down, any comfortable position. This is very much you get to choose how you play this sound and experience. So for me, it becomes very interesting to sort of play with the subtle shifts of the sounds, like where I feel the shaping in my mouth and in my throat happening. And also how I'm noticing, even with just these sounds, I'm noticing these shifts of like more condensed denseness and then lightness throughout the play of my breath. Sometimes the inhale feels lighter, and as I get to the end of the exhale, I feel more condensing. But sometimes it's different depending on what kind of sound I'm making. So feel free to really explore the expanse of those micro movement shifts in sensation and how that lands and how that plays out or plays in to your experience of being. So this is very much about freeing up your idea or your sort of perception of who you are and just giving yourself more capacity to play with different versions as if we're in the multiverse and there are, an infinite number of you, and each version is just slightly different. Or maybe when we get over there, that version is super different. But this version here, we're giving it more spaciousness, more possibility. So that was the one breath. The other breath is it's an adaptation from continuum breath. Emily Conrad, Susan Harper, continuum work. If you don't know it, I highly suggest checking it out. The it's called the Jacques breath, and it's like a so you want to free up your face. There isn't a right way, but if you find that yourself or you're finding yourself in a pattern that keeps repeating, shift it up somehow. So I am going to add to the Jacques breath some deeper sort of voluminous sound. What it feels like is voluminous sound for me. So it'll be like this. I'm going into my deeper register and I'm trying to like what it feels like to me is when I start to dive in there, I'm just opening this space inside. But the lowness of it and the that kind of vibration has a denser quality. So this would be the low stuff. Maybe it makes you feel light and spacious. Maybe it does different things, but just playing with this other version for a few breaths, and then we'll go back and forth. Allowing your whole body, the whole room, everything around you to be involved in this sort of resonant chamber music that your body is making. And it doesn't have to be musical. It can be crusty and crunchy and weird. It doesn't have to sound like beautiful, but allow yourself to play in that idea of these, instruments vibrating and air moving through them. And that's us and the space around us. So letting yourself play with that, feeling how things shift as you adjust and micro move within your own system. No right or wrong, really just a free flow of play. If anything comes up that feels uncomfortable, either look at it head on or slide by into stillness, do something different. Really allow yourself permission to negotiate your experience in whatever way feels the best to you, feels the most nurturing, nourishing, and supportive. Yeah, so don't think, oh, I found an edge. I really should smash myself into it. Maybe not. Maybe back off. Allow yourself to decide in the moment. Feeling into the sense of your own body as being this is a very dancey thing to say, but a container and contents so that you're feeling into maybe parts of you feel very light and easy, maybe parts feel denser, maybe it's shifty and changey. And we're also just playing with our imagination. It's my imagination, my concept of myself within my body or within this space. So giving ourselves full freedom and range to play in any way that's interesting with that idea of lightness, expansion, non-density, and then density, right? If something's denser, it sinks faster in water. That's one way of looking at it. So we're bodies of water. What's sinking fast? What's condensing? And what is like, bubbling up? Bubbling up, that's a good analogy for like where the lightness of your bubbles. Where are the lightness of your bubbles? So let's play in back and forth with those different sounds or no sound, just playing with movement and those concepts or anything else that comes up for you with these ideas of like density, lightness. What parts of you are mercurial? If you've ever seen Mercury roll around on the floor, it's a very strange quicksilver. Yeah, are there parts of you that are there in that fluid density? Or are parts bubbling up? Or are parts really condensing down? And can we relax into that, right? It doesn't have to be, oh no, they're getting condensed and that's a problem. It can be, we're settling into this. It's wonderful. So we're just going to play with those sounds. Any movement that feels good in any way that feels interesting. Seeing what it feels like, just asking yourself within, what do I feel like now? What does this feel like? How is this different? It may be that you've done enough of the sounding stuff. So if you feel like, oh, I haven't, that's fine, I've done that enough. Just let yourself play with movement, allowing yourself to become lighter, allowing yourself to become denser, or noticing where you're becoming lighter, where you're becoming denser. What's bubbling up and what's sinking down? What's settling? Can I settle into my density? Finding the earthy nature, maybe tuning into my bones. Or can I dance between? Maybe both of them are expressing at the same time in different body parts, or even in the same area. Giving yourself permission to fully dive into your experience of being in movement or in sensation so that you're allowing yourself to really go into feeling, sensing. And maybe it's easier or more fluid to do it really slow. And it doesn't even have to move at all. You can just tune into sensations. If you have concepts or ideas about your body or who you are, see if you can just let those go and just be these different flows of lightness and more condensed density without any judgment, without any need to have a story or make any sense. It could just be images, flavors swirling around. And your focus can be very expansive, like feeling the whole thing. Maybe it's your awareness is all around you, or maybe it's very specific in one little area. No need to struggle, just let it be whatever it is. And it might be shifting on a regular basis, changing from one thing to another. If you had no solidity to your form and were just like gaseous or a steam, what would it be like? How would you move? What would that feel like? Yeah, if I think of letting the density within my body start to settle down towards the ground, like the weightedness of my body settling down, becoming denser, connecting more to the planet, right? The gravitational pull of Earth is what it is. What if I were on a different planet that was really keeping me connected to the planet? How would that feel? Everything denser. I've been dancing between these ideas: density, lightness. Can I have free flow in my density or free flow in my lightness? Yeah, if you let go of the idea of being a human in a body, what can you play with being? What comes to mind? A bag of sand, some rocks. I don't know, I'm thinking back into the density. A helium balloon, a leaf. Are there parts of your self-conception that you can just let go of as you play in these different spaces with this idea of density or lightness? Maybe it's very nice to just be in one of those spaces today. We don't always have to do everything, but sometimes it's easy to understand one thing when we have this spectrum of something that's very different. So we can move through these flows where we're shifting like a lava lamp back and forth along that spectrum. I think I'm going to add music, and I might get in trouble with the copyright police for this, but I'm going to do it anyway. We'll see what happens. I actually don't think that it took me, so it was so hard for me to find this music that I don't think it's anywhere on the spectrum, but I'll tell you what it is. It's, if I can find it on my own thing. There it is. It's called Celestial Dolphin. And I've used it in continuum class, or I've been in continuum class with it. It's kind of outer spacey music, so this is maybe a good thing to play with density. Do I got to share sound first? All right, it's definitely not music so much, but you see how it goes for you. Get the water sounds in there. Maybe Zoom people, if it's too loud or too quiet, let me know. It's still really quiet. It's kind of coming in, but then it'll take up more space. So letting yourself use that. I feel like the Celestial Dolphin music has this sort of inner outer spaciousness to it. What's sinking with density? What's rising with lightness? Maybe sinking with lightness and rising with density. If you somehow stumble across this in your travels on TV land, join in. Feel into it. Slow down with it.
moving into something that feels particularly dense, is there space around it? Is there lightness around it? Or if you're feeling into something that's incredibly light, is there density within it? These are all just concepts. It's just a play. There's no answer. We're just playing with it, feeling into it. To bring that in, stop the live stream. So if you're up there in TV land, thanks for joining.